welcome to the National Conference on Men, Masculinities and Gender-Based Violence, Mardon Wali Baat, Unpacking Patriarchy, Gender Stereotypes and the Shaping of Indian Masculinities. I'm very, very honored to have some wonderful, esteemed speakers and visionaries in the first panel, Reimagining Masculinities in New India. I'd like to call to the stage Ms. Rohini Nilekani, Chairperson of Rohini Nilekani Philanthropies and co-founder of EkStep Foundation. Rohini Nilekani is a renowned author and philanthropist and has been a strong influence in the Indian social sector over the past 3 decades. Currently, she is the chairperson of Rohini Nilekani Philanthropies and a co-founder and director of EkStep, a non-profit education platform. She founded Argyam, a foundation for sustainable water and sanitation, and co-founded Pratham Books, a non-profit children's book publisher. A former journalist, she has written for many leading publications such as Times of India, India Today, Mint. Penguin Books published her first book, Stillborn, and her second book, Uncommon Ground. Her third was a self-published book, Samaj Sarkar Bazaar. She has written 17 books for young children, including the famous Sringari Srinivas series. Welcome, Rohini ma'am. Please, can we all have a round of applause? Thank you. I'd like to welcome next Mr. Shombi Sharp, the United Nations Resident Coordinator in India. Mr. Sharp is the UN Resident Coordinator for India since November 2021. He has devoted more than 25 years of his career to promoting inclusive and sustainable development internationally. He has held several leadership positions at the UNDP across Armenia, Georgia, Lebanon, Europe, Russia. Prior to joining the UN, Mr. Sharp began his career in development with the international non-profit CARE International in Zimbabwe. Sharp began his career in development with the international non-profit CARE in Zimbabwe, and he's also a published author of works in health economics and was a United States Agency for International Development policy champion, as well as the nominee for the UNDP Administrators Award. Mr. Sharp, please, would request you to come to the dais. Thank you so much for being here. And next, I'd like to call on stage the co-founders of CEQUIN, Ms. Sara Abdullah Pilot, co-founder and chairperson, and Ms. Lora Krishnamurthi Prabhu, co-founder and managing director. Welcome.
Warm welcome to all of you. All of you been like bang on time. Rohini, respect. Mr. Sharp, amazing. Because everyone says we won't start at 9:30, and I said we will because of the kind of people. And Rahul, amazing. On time, despite Delhi's traffic, and thank you so much for being here. You've come all the way down from Bangalore, rise in our dialogues, yet we've been somehow able to bring you out of there to spend a little bit of time with us. I'll just take a little bit of time just to give you a context of why we are here, you know, where it started out from. Sara and me met a little over 20 years back when we were colleagues at UNIFEM, that's now called UN Women. And those were very exciting times when, you know, amazing path-breaking work was happening at that time. There was the Domestic Violence Act, which has been legislated. We were actively working on anti-trafficking, implementation of the PNDT Act. There was so much work around training the women in panchayats. You know, there was a huge drive to get girls into school. We were doing advocacy around, you know, more gender disaggregated data. We were talking about gender budgets. So very, very exciting times where we kind of learned the basics of the job in hand. And in 2009, we decided to take a different journey, and we set up our own NGO to work at the grassroots. And we really didn't want to do more of the same. We were looking at what was missing, you know, what were the gaps. And that's what we wanted to plug. And one of the major concerns that we had in the way the work was happening around women empowerment, gender equity, you know, violence against women, was that it was very piecemeal. If you look at the Domestic Violence Act, piecemeal, you know, Dowry Act, each of these are looking at symptoms of the problem. And there are these various little interventions which are being designed, But we felt that what was really missing was a holistic understanding of what the problem really is, and really kind of doing a deep dive into the core of the issue. And that was patriarchy, you know, go down to the fundamentals to see what the issue is, and then having a kind of a holistic approach to how we're going to solve this problem. And when you look at it that way, then gender is not just women, right? Gender is women, men, all other genders. And so that we felt was one of the inherent problems about the way things were being done. And so for Sara and me, we were absolutely committed to working with men and women, you know, to address the issue. And it wasn't easy, because within the UN women's movement, there was a bit of a pushback saying there's such little resources for women in the first place. And here you're trying to, you know, compete, you know, within that to have money set aside for boys. And it was true, right? Because we were also working with women and girls, and we realized that even when we are raising money, we are kind of allocating those very meager funds into you know, for boys. So it wasn't an easy thing, but we felt that there's no other way out. We have to do that. There was also very, very little work. There were a handful of organizations who were working with men and boys, you know, for gender equity. We didn't have a template to follow. We weren't quite sure exactly how we're going to do it, but we were determined to learn along the way. And the first most exciting, you know, step that we kind of took in 2009 was to partner with Delhi Daredevils cricket team. And we ran this campaign, this was just before the Commonwealth Games, to make Delhi safe for women. And what was unique about the campaign was it was men talking to men. Because prior to that, you know, when you talked about women's safety, it was, you know, pepper spray or self-defense classes for girls. The onus of your safety is on yourself. And this campaign, for the first time, just had men talking to men, and daredevils kind of became a euphemism for mardangi, and the campaign kind of unpacked what it is to be a daredevil. And that was a very unique and amazing way to start our journey, and then that kind of evolved into a program on the ground, and over the years we've had hundreds and hundreds of workshops, training with young boys, young men in communities and schools. Thousands of young people have come out of these programs, and it's been an amazing journey. Some of them are here today, and you can meet them and interact with them. During the pandemic, when we were stuck, my kids were stuck with me at home, they couldn't wriggle out of my, you know, grasp. I was kind of breathing down, then I kind of understanding social media, saying, you know, what is it? Because as a mother, I know, you're always worried, you know, about this digital space, because there's so many risks, and not sure whether you should allow them on it or you should not. And that's a debate. But, you know, I'm also a risk taker, and I think you cannot you cannot escape technology. You have to understand the fact that the young people are living in the digital age. So it's best that we kind of brace up and learn more and make that a safe space for them. So I have to credit my kids, as well as the large number of interns, young interns from schools and colleges who interned with us very intensively during the pandemic, who educated us, who taught us. We learned from these youngsters. That's when I realized the power of this, you know, short form content on TikTok, and then that entire, you know, after TikTok was banned, it all shifted to Instagram, and the sheer power of that kind of, you know, storytelling. So that was something that we were really determined to do, and finally it took shape with this amazing campaign with support from Rohini. And you know, the campaign, just kind of take a minute to tell you that there were 50 nano and micro influencers. We didn't even know who these influencers were. We were really keen to meet them. And they are these young men from across North India who we work closely with GCC, Good Content Creators, a digital marketing company, and we learned from them, they learned from us. We brought these young people together. We had a residential workshop, And we've been co-creating with them for the last 8 months. It's still early days of the journey, but we just were really keen to share the journey so far with all of you and to give you a flavor of what we are trying to do together. So that's where we are at, and I won't take any further time because you've got the whole day to discuss, and I want to leave time for others. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Very warm welcome to all of you, especially to Rohini, to Shombi, to Rahul, and all of you for being here with us today. As Lora told you, the two of us never really take the easy path. We try, actually, every year we sit down and say, this year we're going to take the, not walk the uneven path, but somehow the outrageous ideas, like for Lora during COVID, that more outrageous ideas, let's work with, micro-influencers, let's get there in the digital space. But it's been exciting, it's been a lot of fun, and it's something that we couldn't have done, Rohini, without you. And I wanted to really express my gratitude and the gratitude of everyone at CEQUIN, because as Lora said, this is something where, yes, more and more, and it's not that, even the UN, I'm sure Shombi will talk to you about what they're doing, more and more now, people are understanding that if we're talking about, women's empowerment, gender equality, all these terms that people are very familiar with and very happy to discuss or happy to fund, but talking about, well, what's men's involvement in there, people kind of say, but we thought you're trying to get away from only the discussion being about boys and men, and don't you want to talk about women's issues? So to actually get somebody to really understand, it's not even that Rohini just, believes in it in a very superficial way. It's something that she sees, she understands, and she tracks exactly what happens. She sees what works and what doesn't work. And for us as CEQUIN, when you're a small organization, it's really wonderful to have funders like Rohini who are so hands-on and actually experts in themselves. She really is. I'm looking forward to hearing from her because she knows so much about not just this topic, a lot of topics, but I know that her work with men and boys is something that she has highlighted across the country, and we've really benefited from her. She's really an exceptional leader, and I've spoken to a lot of people that work with Rohini, and the platform that she gives organizations like CEQUIN, where otherwise we wouldn't be where we are. It's really thanks to you, Rohini, that you see things beyond just the paycheck. She, as I said, she looks into the details. She sees, and she's happy to discuss with us that, okay, maybe last year what you did, this wasn't really as we expected it would be. This is how we can do better. And I think we're all on a learning curve. We can all grow. We can all improve. And our partnership with Rohini, Nilekani, Philanthropies has been exceptional because of that kind of growth, because of that kind of learning. And it's the first time that we ventured into this particular space. And that too with a donor who understands the importance of that work in the field with men and boys. So thank you again, Rohini, for your support. And we look forward to doing many more outrageous and interesting things with you. As Lora said, she and I both began our careers in this field, let's say, with the UN. So to be here with you, Mr. Sharp, is really is an honor. When we started CEQUIN, we did the opposite of what a lot of people do. A lot of people start NGOs and then, the dream is to work for the UN, and for us, we did the opposite. But actually, it's not about one or the other. And the work that we do at CEQUIN is very much guided and backed by understandings of the UN system, like the SDGs. And we feel that these kind of conversations, the work that we do at CEQUIN and the work that the UN does, it's about having that understanding that as a jigsaw we come together. So you have our work as a local organization at the grassroots. And then you have, of course, the UN system, which is looking at issues all across the world. So for us to come together and work together and bring those understandings together, it helps the work that we do on the ground. It guides our philosophies when we listen to people like Shombi, when he tells us about what is happening in the world. Because the UN, I remember this when I even just did my first internship over there at UN Women. The work that's done there, it's very methodical, it's backed by a lot of research, and so for organizations like CEQUIN, we really draw on that. And then we can translate that into our work in the villages, in the grassroots, in places like Mewat where we work. But it's that partnership, and I think the UN system can't really do what they do without organizations like us feeding into their understanding of what are the issues. And so there is this relationship that takes place, and we've been very fortunate to have that kind of understanding and that relationship with the UN and with all the organizations at the UN. And lastly, I must mention, I know, Rahul, you're not on the stage, but because I'm not going to be able to have this opportunity, I did want to thank Rahul for being here first thing this morning for our inaugural session. We go back a long way. I mean, I feel like when we started CEQUIN, I think Rahul was there, more or less. I mean, we can't remember when really we had our initial conversation with him. He had his foundation, and Rahul has always done a lot of different things, and it's very hard to keep up with what he's doing. But he has always believed in our work, and it's something which I feel very grateful, because it's not just about words. With Rahul, he really walks the talk. So he will make the effort, he'll put himself out, which a lot of people don't do. He will juggle his schedule. He's on our advisory board, and he will juggle his schedule and make time to be here, and not just come in and, you know, breeze out. He will give us very sharp and very pointed inputs, let me say. And it's great. That is what we want. He's not just a bystander, and he doesn't just sit there and clap, but actually for me, that is the greatest well-wisher. When somebody can sit with you and say, 1 minute, can you think about what you're doing? Can you explain to me why are you doing 500 things? Why are you, I feel that maybe you're not very focused. To me, that is the greatest well-wisher. It's very easy to congratulate someone. It's very easy to praise them even when you don't mean it, but to actually sit down with them, take out the time, and risk the relationship by saying things that they don't want to hear. I feel that that is somebody that actually really cares about the work that you're doing, and that's something that Rahul has always done. And of course, he believes very much in the work that we're doing, and we are going to have a longer session with him. But it's a great inspiration to have him with us and to be able to have a longer conversation, which I look forward to. So without further ado, now I would like to ask Rohini. No, actually, sorry, you know what we were thinking? Sorry, Rohini. We were thinking what might be nicer is if we show the film, and then you can speak after that, so that you have a little bit more of an understanding of the campaign. I mean, I don't know what's comfortable for you. If we turn the chairs, can you see it, or?
किसको सुनाऊं हाल दिले बेकरार का, बुझता हुआ चराग हूँ अपनी मजार का। ऐ काश भूल जाऊं मगर भूलता नहीं, किस धूम से उठा था जनाजा बहार का। वो टैबू और वो सारे जो टर्म्स हैं, सेक्स एजुकेशन, मस्कुलिनिटी एंड इक्वालिटी, तो वो सारी चीज़ें पेरेंट्स ने ही इनकलकेट करी भाई मेरे में। बीइंग अ गाय, मैं तो बच्चा हूँ, उस समय मैं लड़का हूँ, तो आपकी क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ होनी चाहिए? यू शुड नॉट टीज एनीवन। मतलब ये तो प्रॉपर ऐसा है कि तूने अगर किसी को छेड़ दिया ना, तो तेरी मैं ऐसी हड्डियाँ तोड़ूंगी, ऐसा वाला सीन था। और टच वुड ऐसा कभी हुआ ही नहीं, क्योंकि पता है कि यार क्यों करना है ये सब चीज़ें। मैं भी यही कर दूंगा, तो बाकी जो लोग कर रहे हैं वो मेरे में उनमें क्या डिफरेंस है ना? मी बीइंग एन एजुकेटेड गाय, सब कुछ पता होने के बाद भी, तो इट डजंट मेक एनी सेंस।
स्ट्रॉन्ग वर्ड से पहले मेरा था कि जो दिखता हो, लेकिन अब बॉडी से नहीं है, माइंड से है। एंगर से हर मर्द का रिश्ता होता ही है। मतलब कहीं कुछ भी होता है तो पहला रिएक्शन जो लड़के का आएगा वो पहले एंगर का ही आएगा। लोग जितना ही बोल रहे हैं कि अरे मर्द को रोना चाहिए, मर्द नहीं रोएगा सामने कभी। ये काफ़ी अभी से नहीं आ रहा है, हमारे प्राचीन काल से आप देखोगे तो तब से आ रहा है कि मर्द कभी सामने रोता ही नहीं।
मुझे इस कैंपेन के बाद भी काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें ऐसी समझ में आई कि हाँ, मतलब ये होता था लेकिन हम लोग अपने पे ध्यान नहीं देते थे।
मर्दानगी अब रीलोड हो चुकी है। आप किस वर्जन पर हैं?
Hello Sara, Lora, hello Dr. Shah, Mr. Shah, Rahul is here, many friends are here in the audience. It's a bit harder for me to talk after that film because it's a very powerful film, congratulations. My colleague Natasha is here who runs our portfolio. Can you tell me when my time is up? Because I don't see a clock here. I don't want to take more than my time. Tell me when I have 2 minutes. So नमस्ते और सबको शुक्रिया यहाँ आने के लिए, ऐसी इम्पोर्टेंट मर्दों वाली बातें करने के लिए, उसमें शामिल होने के लिए, और आपको भी मुझे यहाँ बुलाने के लिए. For me this is a very important topic. I came to this idea of working with young men and boys several years ago. I've been in the field of social change for 35 years now, we have seen how much things change. We have learned that to make any social change stick and become sustainable takes anywhere from 15 to 20 years. We started this work almost 10 years ago when I used to work on water, education, environment issues. And going around the country, I used to talk a lot to women because issues of education, water are very closely linked. Governance, justice are very closely linked to the lives of women everywhere. But as we were trying to help women, empower women, do things. I was since a young age reading feminist literature, very caught up with the cause. But as I was looking around and observing the people in our country, I was looking at the young men around the women. And it seemed to me that we are missing something. That while yes, women need a lot of help and we'll have to continue to work on this issue forever, but that maybe we were missing half of the puzzle. I used to see young boys around, they were curiously listening to what we were telling girls or women self-help groups, and when I used to turn and talk to them, we could see there was a lot of trouble in their lives. One is that they could not see a clear path to their own prosperity necessarily. They could see that NGOs were working with women. There was not much work going on with the men. They could see that the economic structure was stacked up in some way against them. Yes, there were opportunities for education, but not necessarily a job after that. They could see that the responsibility and burden of their families was upon them. And by the age of 13, and we have done surveys, you all also have seen such surveys, by the age of 13, a boy is told that he is the symbol of that family. He's going to have to be the breadwinner. He's going to uphold all the values. He's going to look after the parents. So actually from that age itself, his own freedom to be himself is restricted, in addition to all the other messages he gets about being strong and emotionally almost blank. And I was listening to all this and saying, what can we do to change this? Because how can we possibly have equity for women without having equity for men to be equally free, to be equally self-aware, to equally get help, to equally have enabling public policy, and so on and on and on. So we started looking around saying, hey, this is something we want to support. At that time, we found one organization working in this space. I'm so delighted to tell you, because these are trends and indicators. Today, RNP thanks to Natasha and my team, we have been able to support 40 organizations working in this country. And I think that's a real indicator of change. It's about how we are building out the field together, and that society is coming to the realization that this is a very important thing to tackle. All over the world, the politics is changing, and you can see the backlash from young males, and males of all ages actually, against the empowerment of women. What is happening in the US is particularly notable because of the turning back of rights to abortion to women, which is a very seriously important problem, and it can easily spiral to other countries. So in India, we have to be very watchful, because in the past, it has been easy for men to find control of women's bodies as a symbol of their own power. And it's nothing to do with men alone. All human beings exercise power, and it's very hard to let go of power. And there are certain dominant ideologies stuck in any structure which tell you that money is important, status is important, physical power is important. And all those have to be constantly challenged, because power is never static. And that's the other thing to always understand. Power is never static. It is always fluid. And we have to constantly be aware of where in the spectrum too much of power has collected, and we have to pull it back to the center, and then it will keep shape-shifting always. I think this is the moment. I had a speech, but I'm saying something completely different. This is the moment to understand what is happening to power in the world, and how, because of the digital era, which is now part of everybody's life. Yesterday we did a convening on what is happening to people because of the digital era, what is happening to the idea of gender in the digital era, and how we, many of us here are, I assume, in the civil society space, how can we become a better digital civil society to use digital means and tools. You saw the influencers, you saw the film, to be able to continue our work in the digital era. If we don't do that, if we are not smart enough to do in the digital era what we tried to do on gender in the physical era, we will be totally left behind. So that is a quick message to give. Look at across all your work, look, because it is the most important technological change of this century. And with AI, it is going to become much worse. To come back to this, the work of CEQUIN is so important. There are many organizations here that are working with young males. But I think when we're talking about young males, we must be very, very careful to know male, female, any other gender, what are we first? We are human first. And I think focusing on humanism, if there's a better word, we should use it, of remembering to be human first and unleashing our potentials of humanness, especially in an age where nobody can secede from the common problems in front of us. Whether it is climate change, whether it is economic issues, whether it is disease and health, none of us, the elite cannot secede, and the poor have never been able to secede from such issues. Men cannot secede, women cannot secede. Whether we like it or not, we are in it together. So then, rather than slip back into various identities, can two things join us together, being our bestest human selves in this time where we have data apart from our stories on how interconnected we are. And two is, can we allow hope to be our new religion in times when things look so strange in the world? Because hope is that one religion which can unite us all. It doesn't divide, it unites, and it allows all of us to move forward for positive action no matter what. It gives you the moral courage to move forward. And in this space where CEQUIN and all of us are working together to say, we want to be in a world where all genders are respected, including men. I'm focusing here on men, you understand. Not because we are putting women behind. Let no feminist get confused that when you're working with men and boys, it does not mean that you're taking away from the important work of women and other gender empowerment. Never, not at all. In fact, we are looking at the root cause of things and we are unpacking, unbundling what is actually going on so that there can be better gender equity all around. When it comes to men, at least I know about myself. I get angry easily. It's not just men who get angry easily, by the way. We all get angry easily. And I know that when I'm angry, it's usually because I'm feeling insecure about something. Something is making me feel that I'm small. And one way I know is to shout. Usually it's at my husband. But sometimes I can shout at anybody, watch out. But why do I do that? It's because I am feeling less. I have to express myself. And if we don't understand that as the root cause of anger in anybody, male, female, or anyone, then we are missing the point. While it is about power, it is also about insecurity and fear. Today, there are good reasons for young males to be insecure. And I think it's especially because of the economic structure. I meet every day I get CVs of young men who have finished what they thought was a fantastic degree. And they are not finding jobs, okay? That is really something to think about. Whom are they going to talk to about the economic structure? Politicians are not really telling them that. We need to unpack that for them. Anger is coming because of fear and insecurity. And if we can help to give young men, especially, 200 million young men are there in this country alone who need to be looked at with complete empathy. It's not that I'm saying celebrate violence, not at all. Where is all our empathy in the social sector to understand these young males where they are at today? That's what I think is the most important work to do, especially in the digital age. I'm going to finish very quickly. The other thing I would say is, what are the creative ways we can look at, especially when, I think by the way we have reached peak polarization. और कितना polarization हो सकता है? बहुत हो गया ये hate का. अभी तो लोग बहुत तंग आ गए इससे. Social media में कितना लोगों को गाली देंगे यार, बहुत हो गया. मेरे ख्याल से अभी change होने वाला है और ये change के wind को हमें पकड़ना है. So I'm saying, let's catch the positive wind that is just about to come. In the darkest part of the night is when the dawn begins to spread its rays. I think we are at that moment. अभी तो बहुत अंधेरा लग रहा है. बस थोड़े दिन में उजाला, अरुण, उषा आ जाएगी और हमें उसकी ओर देखना है, वो horizon की ओर देखना है और काम करते रहना है. क्योंकि men want the same thing as women. We are all wanting dignity. We want choice. We have dreams. We have aspirations. We want family. We don't want to be isolated and alone. That's what's happening to young men. We understand that. We need creative responses for this now. Don't lose hope. Inside every man who's angry, there is somebody seeking help. He's saying, look at me. Please look at me. I think we need to turn that empathetic gaze towards young men and boys. I'm being a little romantic and idealistic here, but I think this is the right time for that kind of idealism. There is much hard work. We know the hard work that the organizations that we are doing, supporting on the ground are doing. I salute all of you for what you are doing. I just met some young men from CEQUIN outside. I know how hard it is. In their communities, they say, ये हमारा लड़का ये ऐसी सब बातें क्यों कर रहा है? Equity की और gender की और सब कुछ. It's very hard work when you're a pioneer of social change. Keep doing the work. I feel extremely optimistic. When things look the darkest, the smallest light we put gives the most light. So that's what we are going to do going ahead. Thanks to CEQUIN for all the work. Thanks to everybody in this room for doing all the work. RNP is committed. My colleague Natasha is sitting here. We are committed to doing this work and deepening the work. I think it's critical work क्योंकि कैसा समाज हम चाहते हैं, हम कैसे समाज में रहना चाहते हैं, जहाँ वायलेंस और हेट ज़्यादा हो या होप, ऑप्टिमिस्टिक, अबंडेंस ज़्यादा हो. स्कैरसिटी के माइंडसेट से हम अबंडेंस की ओर कैसे जा सकते हैं? व्हाट इज़ अबंडेंस? ह्यूमन पोटेंशियल इज़ अबंडेंस. In India, there are 1.4 billion points of hope and abundance. We have to unlock all these things. Today, my husband's work in technology, digital public infrastructure. Believe me, these are all things that are going to open up avenues for every single citizen of India, men and women. And men shrink when they are scared and feel scarcity. If we turn that scarcity into abundance and opportunity, they will be less scared, less angry, and less violent about women. We must focus on all these things. And when we do that, I think the next time we meet here, I think we will have seen that we have crossed the tipping point into the light. I certainly hope so. Dhanyavad and namaskar.
Thank you so much, Sara and Lora, all of the CEQUIN colleagues here today. And if it was difficult for Rohini to speak after the film, which I think it was because that was such a powerful film, it's even more difficult for me to speak after Rohini because that was such a powerful remarks. It's wonderful on behalf of the United Nations to be here today, also recognizing Rahul Bose in the audience here. And I guess that's the hallmark of being an actor, is that everybody feels they know you so that they can call you by first name, Rahul. But I do have to say that Bulbul is one of my favorite movies, in fact, and very much apropos to the topic here today. Absolutely, culture and violence and stories and these sorts of things. So it's a great pleasure to wish all of you greetings. Aap sabhi ko UN Parivar ki taraf se mera namaskar to all of you, and to say that it is no secret, as Rohini was mentioning, that we're living in a time of great upheaval at the moment, great disruption, division. If we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the globally agreed roadmap to get to the sustainable, prosperous world that we want, we're massively off track. 87% of the targets are off track. And you know, this year is supposed to be a milestone year in so many different ways. It's the 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations, of the very concept of nations coming together and saying, let's work together, put our disagreements aside, or at least work through them in a rules-based, in a framework mode, and let's address our common challenges with common solutions. This is the 10th year of the Sustainable Development Goals, also the 30th year of the Beijing platform, which is the first time that really gender equality and women's empowerment entered into such force in multilateralism. And yet all of this is under strain, under attack like never before. And if we look at gender in particular, as the UN Secretary General says, gender equality is the unfinished business of our time. And statistics are often quoted that at the present trends, we're 100, 130, 300 years, you name it, away from achieving gender equality. Whatever it is far, far, far too distant, and none of us will be around to see it. So we have to understand the urgency. As I like to say, Mamla urgent hai. This was one of our slogans that we were using. But the stark truth is that men are too often a part of the problem, not the only problem, but too often part of the problem and not part of the solution. And yet here in India, we have so many inspirations to draw upon. Mahatma Gandhi, of course, famously said, "Be the change you want to see in the world," that we all have to be a part of this change. Gender equality, women's empowerment is not a women's issue per se only. It is an issue for all of us. That's definitely, I think, the message that we've heard here already today. Certainly all great human rights causes, and women's empowerment is first and foremost a human rights cause, have been led by the people who are discriminated against. That is true. So I don't wish to take away at all from the core leadership of women in gender equality. But they also require whole of society coming together, and men are a critically important part of this calculus. And what does it mean to be a man? I mean, this is, we could probably go through a PhD course, and this film and a lot of the research being done by CEQUIN and by other partners in the United Nations also is about understanding these definitions, these mythologies or mythologies as were mentioned, that there is no actual truth to a sense that being a man means you have to be aggressive, you have to be in control, you have to be lashing out violence, you cannot possibly cry or be vulnerable, these sorts of things. These are learned, these are taught, and these are passed down generation to generation. And everybody loses when violence occurs. Also, the perpetrators of violence lose. And I'm always astounded by, and it's the far less concern, of course, but astounded by when men engage in violence, and then you see the suffering that they bring on themselves also, not just the object of the victim, but on the families, and it's just a lose-lose scenario in each and every case. So we have to understand that true strength comes actually from equality, from empathy, from nonviolence. True intelligence comes from foresight, from understanding, and not just risk-taking, but risk management and risk understanding. And that's why we need gender equality. We need parity at every level, whether it's a household, whether it's a business, whether it's a community, whether it's a country. The evidence is very clear that each of those organizational units of humanity does better, is more profitable, more prosperous when you have women equally at the decision-making table. So in the United Nations, we prioritize these issues across all of the work that we're doing in our UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, co-created with India, with the government of India. There are many, many examples. I don't want to take the time to go through them, but even looking at positive masculinity, UNESCO, for example, is doing a lot of important work through the UNESCO Transforming Mentalities program, generating evidence and resource materials, again, helping men and women, boys and girls, unpack and understand these issues and talk about it, because it's absolutely vital first even to talk about the issues. And I thank CEQUIN again for bringing us here together today and for giving us the materials to be able to reflect. UNICEF's Global Gender Action Plan also recognizes the vital importance of positive masculinities within this whole of society approach. And I think that ultimately then is the message, that each and every one of us has a role to play. The film that we saw was focused on influencers, but each and every one of us is an influencer. We all, some of us have massive spheres of influence, like Rahul, and like colleagues here on the dais with organizations. But every single person in this room has a very important sphere of influence through families, through communities, through schools, through work, you name it. We can each take this forward and understand that being vulnerable and being empathetic absolutely align with being comfortable in your masculinity. There is no contradiction here at all. And I, frankly, as a man, have never understood why anybody would see a contradiction there. I feel very comfortable in my masculinity. I engage in things that have traditionally been associated as masculine. I have a torn rotator cuff from ice hockey. I've got a labrum tear from tennis. I've got a head injury from basketball. These things, and yet I have no hesitation to understand that when my children were young, I needed to share in the care work at home, or to work with my wife and work with my kids in terms of understanding that the home is a place to share unpaid work and to be vulnerable and to really see that there is no place for this, what we now call toxic masculinity. I hope that everybody, especially the men and the boys in the room, can understand this. And finally, if you don't see it from that prosperity position, then see it from a position of selfishness. Because, and this might be counterintuitive, as we achieve gender parity, as women are equal voices in the room, management boards, you name it, what happens? I did economics as a master's, and the fundamental approach to understanding economies and the functioning of any unit, you have a production function. It's very simple. You have inputs. We usually talk about capital and labor. So let's talk about men and women. If you have too much of one and too little of the other, the marginal value of each unit of the one that's too much is little. And the value of the one that is little is very high. And so by bringing women more into the equation, as we achieve gender equality and parity, what happens to the men's value? It goes up. You actually become more special. You become more valuable if you're sitting on a panel with many women on it, or if you're sitting in a boardroom with many women there. As a man or as a boy, you are more valuable. So let me conclude with that, and let me say, therefore, Sate to Sambave. This is a partnership together. And everybody here in India has a very special opportunity, in fact, perhaps an obligation to drive this forward. Because what happens in India is at such a scale that you are driving the global needle. SDGs dunya mein mumkin hongi, kyunki India mein mumkin hongi. And this is because of your efforts. Bahut bahut dhanyavad. Thank you.